favourite thing about being an MP?
The reason that I got into this is because I wanted to help people, and that was why I became a counsellor in the first place. And so that is my favourite thing. We got a message from my constituency staff today to say that we'd managed to win a case for a constituent, we'd managed to get the outcome that they were looking for, and that they're absolutely delighted. And that is the best thing, being able to make a big difference to people's lives. So whether it is getting somebody's streetlight fixed so they're not scared to go out at night, or whether that is something, you know, really huge, like getting them the right to remain in the UK when they are fleeing some kind of really terrible situation in their home country. So along that whole spectrum, any of the wins that you can get, that's the best thing undoubtedly about being an MP.
If the Treasury miraculously found £1 billion and it was up to you how to spend it, but you could only spend it on one thing, what would you choose and why?
I would give it to the Scottish Parliament, and then the Scottish Parliament could choose what to spend it on. That's the Treasury has found £1 billion and has given it to Northern Ireland, but they haven't given a similar amount to Scotland per head of population, and that's what I would do with the money.
Now, given the rapid evolution of technology, it's possible at some time in the future the electorate might be able to vote directly for bills going through the Houses of Parliament. Would you see that as a good or bad thing? And in such a scenario, what would you see the role of an MP?
Well, for a start, I don't see that happening, because the fact that the House of Commons is so resistant to any change, and generally they refuse to change anything until, 50 years after other people have had the technology. So I don't see that it would be likely that they would allow that to happen, particularly because the government never wants to cede power to anybody else. But if it did happen, then, I think you would still have the case that MPs would be having to give speeches that would have to be put across their point of view, and also having to try and convince the electorate to vote in the way that they supported and their party supported. But going back to what I said earlier about the fact that MPs are there to help their constituents and to make that difference, MPs would still very much have that role, because the changes that we're making about fixing streetlights or getting visas approved is things that you can't do through votes in Parliament.
Now, do you favour the carrot or the stick? Do you think it's better to reward people for good behaviour or to punish them for bad behaviour, for example, with the use of plastic bags or the consumption of sugary drinks?
I think rewarding people for good behaviour is probably a good way to go. I think, clearly you need to have a stick in certain circumstances. So can I have a carrot and a stick, possibly? I think that depending on the circumstance, you need to have the right tool for the job. So things like encouraging people to save by ensuring that they have good places in which to save their money, and also that they have they're earning enough money so they can afford to save. I think all of those things are probably carrots and things that I would favour. But at the same time, if somebody does something wrong and and it's severely wrong and they need to go to prison, I would also favour that happening as well. So can I have both, please?
We note the publicity surrounding the use of WhatsApp groups in Parliament. Do you think it's a good or bad thing for democracy for MPs to use WhatsApp groups, and why?
I think WhatsApp groups are a good way of communication generally. I think that it is the fact that, my child's football team has a WhatsApp group, so the parents can say, is the game on today? Is my son playing at 3:15 or is he playing at 4:30? And I think, those are great ways of communication. It's the same with WhatsApp groups for MPs. The majority, I would assume, although I'm not in some of the WhatsApp groups that have been reported on, the majority are saying things like, I've got a meeting happening in committee room 3 right now. Can you all remember to come to this meeting? So I think they're incredibly useful for things like that. It's really busy here generally. We can be, double or triple booked at any given time. So for communication like that, I think they're really positive. It is the case in any kind of type of technology that you're going to have people bitching about other people, and I don't like the use of that either on WhatsApp or sitting in the tea room, to be honest.
Which MP from another party do you most admire, and why?
This is a really tough question for MPs to answer. I have, during my time as an MP, spent a lot of time watching back my speeches and trying to improve what I'm doing in the chamber, trying to make sure that I am speaking in a better way. And it's all well and good for me to watch speeches by somebody like Mary Black, who's got a phenomenal natural talent for speaking, but I'm never going to be Mary Black in my speaking style because I don't have that natural talent. So I would watch speeches by people like Ken Clarke, who I often disagree with, but I think the way he puts things across are ways that, I would like to put things across. Annalisa Dodds, who is probably little known but was an MEP before she was elected last year, I think she's very good. She always knows what she's talking about. She's incredibly on top of her brief, and I think the way that she puts things across is a way that I really admire and would like to do what I can to emulate, to be honest.